Welcome to today's story, a tale of betrayal, justice, and standing firm in the face of adversity. This is the story of how one man, wronged by his wife and the court system, refused to back down. It's a powerful story about maintaining your dignity, making your voice heard, and not giving in to injustice. Everything seemed perfect, at least on the surface. I had a beautiful home, a successful career, and a wife whom I thought was my soulmate. We had been married for almost a decade when everything started to crumble. At first, it was subtle. She became more distant, more irritable. I chalked it up to work stress or perhaps the natural ebbs and flows of marriage. But then, I found the texts. The discovery was like a punch to the gut. Messages, intimate ones, between my wife and another man. There was no denying what I was seeing. The worst part? She didn't even try to hide it. I confronted her that night. She tried to deny it at first, but eventually she broke down, admitting everything. She had been seeing this man for months, sneaking around behind my back. Betrayal in its most painful form. The anger, the pain, the sense of loss were overwhelming. But I knew one thing for sure. I was done. There was no coming back from this. It was over. I filed for divorce immediately. It wasn't just the affair that pushed me to this point, but the utter disrespect she showed me. I was done being a fool. But the legal battle that ensued was far more complicated than I could have imagined. My wife, as it turned out, wasn't just seeking a divorce. She was looking for everything: the house, the kids, the financial settlements. She wanted it all. And in her corner, she had a judge who seemed all too eager to side with her. You see, the judge assigned to our case had a reputation of being liberal and progressive, quick to favor the rights of the woman in divorce cases, regardless of the circumstances. I tried to prepare myself for the worst, but nothing could have prepared me for what I was about to face in the courtroom. The first hearing was an eye-opener. My lawyer had warned me that this judge was likely to be biased, but I never expected it to be this bad. She barely looked at the evidence I presented. The affair, the emotional distress. I thought these would count for something. But to my horror, the judge seemed more concerned with how my wife felt. She was getting all the sympathy from the court. I couldn't believe it. I had spent years building a life together, only for it to be stripped away. Meanwhile, my wife, who had betrayed me so completely, was being painted as the victim. The judge seemed to overlook the fact that I had caught her red-handed, the clear emotional toll it had taken on me. Instead, the court focused on my supposed mistakes as a husband. It wasn't about right or wrong anymore. It was about who had the better story, the better lawyer, and the better support. But here's where the story takes a turn. As the hearings continued, I felt more and more helpless. The system seemed rigged, the judge's bias apparent. But I wasn't about to give up without a fight. I made it clear in the final hearing that I would not comply with a settlement that was unjust. I would not accept a ruling that ignored the truth. I spoke up. I told the judge that I had spent years trying to be a good husband, a good father. I had worked hard to provide for our family. And now, after everything, I wasn't going to be made to look like the villain. I laid out the facts, the betrayal, the deceit. I told the judge that I would not settle for being taken advantage of. If the court wasn't going to recognize my rights, then I would take it further. I had no intention of complying with a ruling that did not serve justice. It wasn't an easy moment. In fact, it felt like the weight of the world was on my shoulders. But I knew I had to stand my ground. I wasn't going to let this injustice go unchallenged. The wait for the final verdict felt like an eternity. The court had made its preliminary rulings, and I was dreading what would come next. It seemed as though the judge was going to rule in my wife's favor. But then, something unexpected happened. A higher court reviewed the case. There were complaints lodged about the bias of the judge, and it turned out there were concerns regarding how my wife's actions had been handled. In the end, the court acknowledged that my position had merit. The affair, the dishonesty, it all came into play. While the judge's initial ruling didn't fully favor me, the higher court made significant adjustments. I was awarded joint custody of the children. a fair share of the assets, and most importantly, respect. Looking back, I realized that this story is about more than just a divorce. It's about standing up for yourself when the world seems against you. It's about knowing that even when things feel hopeless, there's always a way forward. The journey wasn't easy. It was painful, frustrating, and at times it felt like everything I had worked for was slipping away. But through it all, I made it clear that I would not comply. I would not give in to injustice. And in the end, I came out stronger, with a new sense of clarity about what I wanted in life. To anyone out there going through something similar, know this: you are not alone. And sometimes, standing up for yourself is the most important thing you can do. Thank you for listening to my story. I hope it resonates with you. And if you're facing your own battles, may it inspire you to find your voice and stand firm. Remember, justice is not always swift, but with perseverance and a clear conscience, you can achieve what's right.